This episode is sponsored by Day by Day Book, a guided journal that helps you navigate the ups and downs of change while creating a life you love. For more information on the classic, recovery, or teen daybook, go to livedaybyday.com. Self-sabotage can appear in many forms, and although one could argue we all have addictions, not everyone can identify with that terminology or feels comfortable admitting it applies to them. So let's put it this way. Anything you reach for that's a means of escaping from your life on any level or in any form can have an adverse effect on your emotional well-being, and for that reason alone deserves attention. Welcome to the Go Go Bistro podcast, where we dish up inspiration for women who are hungry for change and ready to make it happen. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, creator, and empowerment coach who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders ride the waves of change with ease and grace. I now work with women to step into change and unleash the power they have to create a life they love. This is a space to let go of the fear and say yes to possibility. Whether you're contemplating a change in your career, relationship, health, lifestyle, or anything in between, nothing is off the table. I'll be serving up simple insights to help you manage the ups and downs of change and share my interviews with successful women who took a leap of faith to create the life they knew they were meant to live, sharing their wisdom, advice, and all the juicy lessons they've learned along the way. So join me at my favorite little two-top, pull up a chair, and let's get started. As you contemplate changing your life for the better, it's so important to start with the basics and be honest with yourself about who you are, what you want, and how you take care of yourself to feel your best every day. At a base level, this involves paying attention to what you do to cope when you're feeling anxious, stressed, or things just simply aren't going your way. I believe the way you treat yourself is closely related to what you're willing to do to improve your quality of life. When we aren't taking good care of ourselves, we're sending subtle messages that we're not worthy of our own attention and care, and this can get in the way of progress on so many levels. As we all know, life's not easy. Our instinct to avoid pain is what makes us human, but we live in a society of instant gratification. And we've learned to distract ourselves in so many ways because our life in all of its color can be messy and unpredictable. Social media, reality TV, food, drugs, alcohol, shopping, gambling, sex are only a few of the many diversions available to take our mind off of what's not working in our lives. We look the other way when we want to avoid seeing what needs to be seen. We put up walls and glance past the shoulder of what's really happening, telling ourselves it'll work itself out soon, somehow, some way. The gaps can be cunningly subtle, and slight disappointments can turn into bigger issues as time goes by. Maybe you're not where you thought you'd be at this point in your life, or in a relationship that's no longer working, a job that feels unsatisfying, or suddenly facing life as an empty nester feeling bored or unfulfilled. These slight dissatisfactions can lead to a pattern of full-blown avoidance that calls you to look for comfort outside of yourself, which can wreak havoc on your overall well-being over time. Now, this tendency leaves an open door for unhealthy habits to creep in. Whatever means of escaping you choose, and as benign as they may seem on the surface, they have a way of slowly and steadily creating disconnection and ultimately keeping you from being able to hear those subtle cues of intuition that are so important when discovering what makes you truly happy. Self-sabotage can appear in many forms, and although one could argue we all have addictions, not everyone can identify with that terminology or feels comfortable admitting it applies to them. So let's put it this way. Anything you reach for that's a means of escaping from your life on any level or in any form can have an adverse effect on your emotional well-being, and for that reason alone deserves attention. We all know that being a successful woman today can come at a high price. Our culture relies heavily on us to give our all at all times, and we can often feel lost in the process. So as we continue to achieve more in our personal lives and careers by reaching new heights, we tend to let our inner critics have their way with us. And this can lead to feeling pressure on all fronts to be better, smarter, and more successful. Reconciling it all while keeping our heads on straight can become next to impossible. Although as women we pride ourselves on being strong and resourceful, these ongoing demands can take a toll and leave us searching to find new ways to ease the stress and anxiety. Looking for something to calm the turbulence can be enticing, especially when limiting beliefs creep into our thoughts and lead us astray. Now, the struggle to stay on top of our game is unbelievably tough in a society that still, in many ways, is way behind when it comes to providing equal opportunity for women on so many levels. Sure, we hear all the time about how far we've come, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to shifting the perception of who we are as we continue to learn how to truly step into our full power. Being successful in your career is only one of the many pressures afoot, and for the millions of women who have growing families, evenings and weekends offer no respite from the chaos. They're merely another endless set of demands and expectations. The action never stops, and taking on the stress of keeping all the balls in the air can be exhausting. Now, to add to this, in order to cope with the stress of everyday life and the demands that are placed on us by ourselves and others, a staggering amount of us turn to food, alcohol, or just other distractions to escape from the barrage of inputs coming at us at all times. Maybe it's reaching for that bottle of wine at the end of the day or eating that extra dessert to calm your nerves. Whatever it is, these feel like quick and easy ways to relax and put the pressures of the day behind us. Now, this isn't surprising. We're surrounded by tons of opportunities to zone out at every turn. Alcohol alone is a highly celebrated and socially acceptable way to wind down, and drinking partners are easy to come by, especially if there's a happy hour to be had at the end of a crazy day. Having a few drinks is considered by many as a great way to either unwind or reward yourself for a job well done. In fact, alcohol is one of the most accessible forms of self-medication there is, and it's no wonder women today are turning to it more and more to numb out. I recently read that approximately 20 million women are suffering from substance use disorder in the US alone. That's an unbelievable statistic. Now, for those of us who are high achievers, the stakes are even greater. With the internal bar we set for ourselves constantly elevating, it's no wonder that addiction's on the rise. As women, we are natural caregivers, and we're amazingly adept at creating loving environments for others, but for ourselves, we have a blind spot when it comes to creating our own harmony and inner peace. Our standards are high, and our inner critic is relentless. Pleasing ourselves and feeling good enough seems out of reach when the expectations to achieve are so high. This internal conflict only perpetuates our need to seek relief externally. Now, the key here is when we turn outside of ourselves to cope with stress, we not only wreak havoc on our bodies, but it detaches us emotionally and can affect our ability to expand our minds and think more creatively. So how do we step away from unhealthy habits and develop new ones that allow us to look inward for the strength and energy needed to create a whole new level of fulfillment? First of all, it starts at a place you may not expect. A huge stress creator in your life exists that you are likely not even consciously aware of most of the time. You see, along with everyday challenges, you have a tape playing in the background that's giving you commentary on everything you do. So changing how you show up for yourself actually starts with changing that voice inside of you that's telling you you're not good enough or lovable enough or whatever your not enough story is. So know this, your circumstances will never shift until you start questioning beliefs about yourself that are holding you back. They will get in the way every time. And I can tell you the best way to hear what that voice is saying is to introduce the idea of changing your life for the better in any way. And I can guarantee you it will pop right up. Because you see, when you're not feeling deserving of something better, even on a subconscious level, fear surfaces. And fear's main job is to stir up all of your insecurities. It loves to tell you how ridiculous you are or how it could never happen. And the truth is, it's just your subconscious looking for safety. Once you know that, you can take a pause, thank fear for doing its job, and promptly ignore it. By the way, that voice is never going to completely go away. You just need to choose to say, thank you, and take action anyway. The more you do this, the less power fear will have over the decisions you make. Always remember, the greatest power you have is the power of choice. You get to choose what you're willing to believe or not believe in any given moment. You have the freedom of choice every single day. Next is to recognize how the feelings that get stirred up when you start to think these unworthy thoughts trigger the need to grab for a cocktail or dessert or attention from whoever makes you feel better. Once again, unpleasant feelings drive us to find relief outside of ourselves. Now, the best way to dip your toe in the water on recognizing what habits may be getting in your way is to start by taking a pause when feelings pop up and watch what you do to avoid them to feel better. It's super simple, but the first step in actually recognizing when it happens. I absolutely know if I've had an uncomfortable conversation or a crazy long day the first thing I want to reach for is something sweet. Now that's just me, but it's just our natural tendency to go for the feel-good solution. What we often don't realize is that puts us in a state of disassociation or disconnection with ourselves. And it's so important for us to feel connected and grounded in order to dream and think bigger. I remember right after I got sober, I was in a yoga class for the first time in many years, and I noticed how distant I felt from my body. It was like I had this awkward relationship with it because I had literally been numbing out for so long that I had to regain even the most subtle of sensations. Now, I work a lot with clients to identify the areas of their life that currently bring them joy so they can start incorporating them into those spaces where they have a tendency to seek outside relief. At the end of a difficult day, instead of unwinding with a glass of wine, how does it feel to get outside, call a friend, or write in your journal? All ways of connecting versus disconnecting. Simple steps that have a huge effect on rewiring your brain and training yourself to reach for something that brings you back inward. Now, there are no hard, fast rules here. It's merely an awareness of your thoughts, the feelings they cause, and then the behavior you choose as a result. All building this muscle of sitting with your discomfort and consciously choosing to take care of yourself in the moment. Self-care may be an overused term, but it's the first step in thinking bigger for yourself and setting goals to make more of the good stuff happen. Now, I'm all about slow and steady progress, so I believe in taking the baby steps needed to increase awareness before making any sweeping changes. So I leave you with this to noodle on. As you continue to become more aware of how you operate, especially in times of discomfort or challenge, and start to overcome those subtle little self-imposed habits that are getting in the way of you showing up fully present in your life, the more connected you become to your own wants and desires, and creating whatever you want in life becomes so much easier. By removing the obstacles, you're allowing all of the new opportunities to come forward. And with time and practice, you'll begin to see yourself in a whole new light, with much greater clarity and conviction to ask for more. Ready and open to take on all the opportunities your life has in store for you. That's it for now. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Journeys Through Change podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or really wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us and leave a review if you've enjoyed this episode. And share it with a friend or on social media to spread the good word, so more women like you can find us and join in on the fun. For more information on the podcast or Day by Day book, go to livedaybyday.com.